Welcome, welcome, welcome to day 2 of our PA Virtual Winter Camp 2020. If you are watching this live Tuesday at 11 a.m., awesome. I hope you got a chance to watch our winter camp yesterday. That was about upcycling materials in your house. So that way you can make things like snowflakes and snow globes that are really cool to decorate your area, whether it's your room or other places around the house to make it look a little bit more wintry. If you want, that video is still up on our YouTube page and will continue to be up. You can always watch it again and get some of your materials, pause, and take your time with that. But this video is going to be with Mrs. McLellan, who is going to teach us how to make your own pom-poms. And what's cool is that you could use these pom-poms to make Garland. You could just have them as just regular pom-poms. You can make them as even like stress balls if you want to have something like that near your desk, or they could be decoration for if you are wrapping gifts, whether it be for the holiday or someone's birthday, what have you. So it's really, really cool. And the materials were sent in the email, but just in case, we're going to go over it in the video as well. Really all you need is some scissors, some sort of cardboard, whether it is the back of a notebook or it could be some regular cardboard. You just want it to be not as flimsy as regular paper, some yarn, and a little bit of creativity. And without further ado, here is Mrs. McLellan with our lesson on how to make pom-poms.
Sorry, hello everyone. I am Mrs. McLellan, and today I'm going to teach you how to make pom-poms, which you can turn into pom-pom garland to decorate your home, or you can turn into pretty pom-pom earrings, any type of, there's lots of fun things that you can do with pom-poms. They're even great as little stress relievers, as some of us are working from home and learning from home. They're just kind of something that can keep your hands occupied and busy. So there's a couple of things that you need in order to get started with your pom-poms. So first I want to talk to you a little bit about the materials. So first thing you're going to need are 2 different size circles. So you'll see here that I have this cup here. This circle is going to do just fine for me. You might have so like any round part from a cup, a coffee mug, a mason jar, something like that. Okay, so this is about 3 inches. This is going to help determine the overall size of your pom-pom. So your pom-pom is going to be about this big. If you want something smaller, you're going to start with something smaller. Your second circle is going to have to be smaller than your larger circle. And that's going to be your middle piece, and I'm going to show you exactly what that's going to be used for. But you want to have 2 circles. Again, it could be, a cup and a quarter, anything that you can just get those 2 circles from. And with that, you're going to create these circles or rings on, I'm going to say paper, but I'm going to talk to you about that in a second. But so just to kind of give you an idea of those circles. So you need 2 items that are going to give you circles. You need, the best thing, this here is actually like a FedEx Express envelope. A great thing is notebook backing. So if you have a notebook at home, the back of your notebook, it's not quite as thick as cardboard, but it's thicker than paper, and that's really going to be your ideal thickness and strength that you want to work with. But if cardboard is all you have, by all means, please do not do this because you don't have notebook backing or something that's this material. You can absolutely use cardboard. It's just going to be a little bit harder to cut, and you want to make sure you have somebody help you out. Okay, so we have our 2 circles, we have our paper. Next thing you're going to need is scissors. Okay, my suggestion is that if you have at home a pair of regular scissors and a pair of really sharp scissors. These are going to help us when we get to cutting our pom-poms, and the sharper the scissor, the better or the easier it is. But I will give you some tips as we get there as well. So we have our circles, we have our paper, we have our scissors, a pen, of course, to trace your circles, and finally, you're going to have your yarn. Hey, you can use any yarn that you'd like. I will show you what you can do if you wanted to make multicolored pom-poms or if you want to make single-colored pom-poms, because you will have a lot of different options with that. All right, so that's it. 2 circles. Notebook paper or notebook backing, scissors, a pen, and some yarn. Really simple. All right, guys, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to grab your 2 circles. You're going to make 2 circles with your larger circle. And you're just going to trace those onto your notebook backing or your cardboard, whatever you're using. Then you're going to get your smaller circle, and you're going to trace those 2 circles inside. Okay, and this is what you will start with. Next step is to cut out your larger circles. You're going to cut out those larger circles. I'll go ahead and I do have examples of what they will look like once they're cut out, but I will go ahead and cut this so that you guys can really see every step so that there is no confusion. But I'll just go ahead and do this with one. So first thing you're going to do is cut out the large circle. Okay, so once you cut your large circle, you're going to have your circle, and then it's going to look sort of like a ring with your smaller circle on the inside. Now you're just going to, let's make sure we can see this okay, cut from the outside to your circle, and you're going to cut that circle out. Again, if you need adult help with this, please make sure you ask for help. Most of this can be done independently, but there are some pieces that you just need to be careful with for your scissors. Okay. Now we have something that looks like this. All I did was cut out that circle. Next, you're going to take about an inch. You can use your fingertip to kind of give you how much you need, and you're just going to take off a little bit there. Okay, if you have a little bit more, that's okay. We're actually going to go a little bit more. And then we've got this sort of C shape. Okay, you're going to do this with both of your sets of circles, and that's going to give you two of these. Okay, once you have both of these, you're ready to start making your pom-poms. And you are just going to line these up. You do want to make sure that your spaces are equal, so you can get them together and then cut them. Then cut those spaces out to make sure you have equal C's. And there you are. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your yarn. Now, if you're thinking about or wondering how much yarn you're going to need, it's really going to depend on how big and fluffy you want your pom-poms to be. So you don't need a whole big ball like this, but you do need a pretty significant amount if you want them to be nice and fleshy, and you'll kind of see what I mean by that. So now you're going to wrap your yarn around your C. And you're going to just start by holding your piece of yarn here around, and we're going to wrap. So really simple. The easiest way is to kind of grab actually your C on the closed side and just to wrap. And you're going to wrap, and you're going to wrap, and you're going to wrap. It doesn't take very long, but you do want to make sure, like I said, that you have a significant amount of yarn. Now, as I said at the beginning, the size of your C is going to determine the size of your pom-pom. So if you want to make little tiny mini pom-poms, you're going to make this bigger circle smaller. If you want to make big pom-poms that maybe you want to hang from your ceiling in your room, you want to decorate stockings with, or there's so many fun things that you can do with pom-poms. And if you do a quick little Google search, I'm sure you can find lots of pom-pom crafts. But so depending on what you want to do with your pom-poms, that's kind of going to determine how big your circles are and how big you decide to start with. So we are just wrapping here. Wrapping. You'll see that this actually might be a little bit flimsy. But so this is where I said, cardboard would be okay too, but you are going to get to a point where we're going to cut through this. And so it's just a little bit more challenging if your cardboard is too thick. But regular paper would be too flimsy and kind of be hard to wrap around also. So you are just going to wrap. Now, if I were to continue wrapping with this blue, my whole pom-pom would be blue. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add another color here so that you guys can see what to do if you want to make a multicolored pom-pom. Now, if you go to Joann's or Michael's or AC Moore, any different kind of craft store, you might find that sometimes you'll find yarn that is different colors to begin with, but that's not always the case. And sometimes the yarn that's single color is less expensive. It might be what you have at home. But so if you want to make multicolored pom-poms with single colored yarn, all you're going to do is stop when you'd like to, and we're just going to cut this yarn here. I'm going to take my next color yarn, and just like when we started, you just want to make sure that you hold where you're going to begin so it doesn't get lost. you're going to start wrapping. And just like we did with the blue, we're just going to wrap. You can do this with really as many colors as you'd like. These are great too for like birthday parties, for decorating. They're great for wrapping gifts with, and I can sort of show you that, what I mean by that once we finish. I can show you with this one. You can easily attach it to a larger piece of yarn to wrap around a box. It's a really great way to add your own personal touch to a present. Okay, so we're going to keep wrapping. Again, just like the size of your circle determines the size of your pom-pom. If you have a smaller circle, right, if your pom-pom is going to have a smaller diameter, you're going to need less yarn to make it poofy. This one is kind of big. You'll see that this one here is quite a bit smaller. So this one here, this cup that I used is a little bit big, so it's really going to take quite a bit more to, you know, really get it full and puffy. So I'm just, again, this does not have to be neat at all. I'll do this quickly for you guys. This is something great that you can do, you know, with your siblings or friends. And you can really use, yarn comes in so many colors that you can make things to match anything. All right, so if you look here, you can see that this is starting to get thicker. It really can, you can go for quite a while here. If my circle were smaller, I would be even going closer to the edges here, but because it's a little bit bigger, my cardboard is even getting a little bit flimsy. And if you do this, you'll see that you can experiment with different sizes. So you can go, you do want to go as close to the edges as you can, but it's not going to hurt you if you don't go all the way to the edge. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop it there. I think I would like it to be a little bit poofier, but I want to make you guys watch me wind and wind and wind all day. So when it's time, when you feel like, all right, I've got a lot of yarn here, I'm happy with this, and you'll see that sometimes you might do one and you'll cut it and you're like, oh man, this isn't poofy enough. And that's okay, you can do it again. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop. And I'm going to cut my yarn. Now, guys, we have this big C, right, wrapped up with yarn. And this is why we have 2 in here. So if you end up forgetting to do 2 C's, we're going to have a little bit of a hard time with this next part. So you want to make sure that you have both of your pieces here, okay, so that you can separate them. And this is where those sharp scissors are going to come in. So again, if you have someone at home who can help you with this, if you feel like you can't be careful enough, make sure you have someone help you. So we are going to go and we're going to place these scissors right in between these 2 pieces of what we're calling cardboard or notebook backing. And you're going to carefully start cutting. Now you're just cutting as close to the edges as you can. You're going to go around your C till you get to the other side. Now, depending on the sharpness of your scissors, it's going to take you more or less cuts, but just take your time. You want to make sure that you're cutting through all of the yarn, and it is quite a bit, right? So you have quite a few layers to go through. So you're just kind of going to cut along. You'll see I accidentally cut my paper there, but that's okay. Go back. You know what, guys? I made a mistake here. I forgot something. Uh-oh. I made a big boo-boo. Okay, guys. My little piece of yarn. Hold on. So we need to get a piece of yarn in here that I needed to put a piece of yarn in the beginning. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Let's see if I can rectify this. Jake, I'm sorry, I might have to start that over. So when you are cutting, you have to have a piece of yarn in the middle to tie your ends with, and so that your yarn pieces don't fall apart. And I forgot about that little piece. So let's see if I can get my first C that I cut. Cut a new one here. No, we might be able to do this okay. Let's see. So I'm just cutting through my yarn here. And guys, again, this yarn gets really thick, which is why you do want to have help if you have someone at home who can help you, or wait till someone is around to help you. Let's not see that. And if you have to put your scissors through a few times, through different layers, that's okay too. I'm going to show you guys the mistake that I made with my yarn here. So, and because I made this mistake, is why I'm having this little bit of difficulty here. You guys can see this here. Oh. Let me get this guy cut here. So once you have your yarn cut, okay, so we've cut completely through that C. If you look here, this all was wrapped. Now I have this piece of yarn through here. And if you see, this really was a little too flimsy, that camera here, this sort of the acking that I used, my envelope, it's a little too flimsy, which made that really challenging. So once you have this yarn around, you're putting the yarn through these two C's, right? So there's this long piece of yarn that's separate from everything else. And we're gonna tie it really tight. And to be safe, I'm gonna go back around and I'm gonna tie it really tight on the other side too. Now you might find that you're looking a little wonky at this point. That's okay. My C came off because again, it's a little too flimsy. Shake, I can do this again. And I'm gonna pull really tight. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it now. Okay, so here, you'll see you've got this kind of misshapen. You see I have that blue that I did first, and that's why it's kind of the way that it is there. Had I done a little bit of each color and mixed things up more, you would end up with that more mixed up as well. And so at this point, like I said, this is, some spots are really, are a little bit looser, some are a little bit fluffier. So all you're going to do at this point, and I'm gonna get my cardboard backing here to protect my space, because your learning coach may or may not want cut up pieces of yarn everywhere. So you are going to take your C's that you started with, and I did destroy mine a little bit, so I'm going to use my backups here. And you're going to place them kind of like a sandwich, okay? Now, if you remember, I said the size of your C's determines the size of your pom-poms, and you'll see that that's pretty close here. I got a little bit uneven. So I'm going to pull my piece of yarn here. These are going to be your guide for trimming your pom-pom. You want to make sure that you're not cutting your pieces of yarn here, but that you're just trimming around. So I'm going to get my scissors and I'm just going to trim. If you decided at this point that you wanted to make it smaller, See if you see that I kind of made mine a little uneven, so this side isn't even outside of the circles. You could make new C's and use them as your sandwiches and make them a little bit smaller. Okay, so once you get around that one side, you're going to flip your sandwich, just kind of turn your C's this way. Again, you don't want to cut the yarn that you used to tie around. So you're just going to kind of push that out of the way. This was not that, so I'm going to trim that. And you're kind of just trimming around this. Put the C's, use the C's like an ice cream sandwich. And this is going to help you get a more even pom-pom. Once you feel like you're pretty even, you can go ahead and get rid of your C's. And then sort of give your pom-pom a little shake. You might end up with some dust around, that's okay. And then you have your pom-pom. If you feel like there's still some even spaces, you could easily just get your scissor and kind of just trim around. Now at this point, you've got a complete pom-pom, and this yarn here is going to be important for whatever you decide to do with your pom-poms. If you decide to make a garland with your pom-poms, all you need at this point is to grab your yarn. Oh, my yarn is falling on me. And decide what you're going to use your garland for. So maybe you're going to hang garland up in your bedroom, or like I said, you might want to use this for a gift. So let's go that route. If you decide that you want to use this pom-pom to decorate a gift, you are just going to take a piece of yarn. I'll get a gift box here so that you can see it used as a gift. Okay, so here we have a gift box. We're going to cut some yarn depending on the size of your box. This around. Gift wrapping class. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this. And I'm just sort of tying this yarn around here like I would tie ribbon. Okay, so at this point I've got this wrapped here. And now you have these pieces of yarn that are on your pom-pom. And we're just going to slip these underneath here. Let's see if I get a better angle here for you. Okay. Just going to pull these really tight. You might want to wrap around again. Just want to either knot or tie any loose edges. Cut, and then there you have your little pom-pom gift. So again, if you were doing this as garland, you would cut out the length of yarn, and then you would use those ties on the edge of your pom-pom to hang them across. Again, you can make these in all different sizes. I do want to make a little correction with the C's from the beginning. But so we are going to take a look at those changes in my little error that I had there. But so let's sort of just take a quick look again at some of the big things that we did here. So most importantly, we have our materials. Right, so for our materials, we had 2 size circles. You have a size to determine the size of your pom-pom. So depending on your circle, your larger circle, that's going to determine the size. Plus a smaller circle. A quarter really is fine. This here is just a little medicine cup, but a quarter is going to be a perfect size for that middle circle. Then you have your yarn of any color. You can use multiple colors or just one. That's up to you. You have scissors. If you have a really sharp pair, you want to have a sharp pair for cutting through your yarn. And then just a regular pair, or just using your sharp pair works as well. And then a pen to cut out those circles. And then some things that's not quite as thick as cardboard, though that will work if that's all you have. But something like notebook backing, sort of like a thick cardboard-like material. Again, I ended up using this UPS envelope, and it was a little too thin and flimsy. And so then you're cutting out your circles or your C's and creating, so you're cutting your larger circle out and then your smaller circle and then cutting your gap. So because we wrap around and you wrap and you wrap and you wrap, but getting that piece through was not supposed, it was like starting to come apart on me. So when you cut, you're supposed to cut, I think I might have just maybe had it too tight is what had happened. So you want to go a little bit looser with that wrapping. So sorry guys, so that was what, because what was happening was when I was cutting it, it was like they started to want to completely come off of my C, whereas it was just a little bit looser, not loose, but just a little bit looser so that when you're cutting through that, they're not completely coming apart. Then you put that piece of yarn through and you want that yarn to just go between the C's so that you can tighten the pom-pom and make it really, really tight at that point so that nothing comes out. And that's where sort of some of the shifting happens. If you are tightening it, but some of it's a little bit loose, some of them start to shift one direction, but you can trim it up with that ice cream sandwich. And I think that's it.
That's an awesome activity for some things that you just have around the house. It looks like it is a lot of fun. You can be really creative with 3 or 4 different colors if you want, depending on the amount of yarn you want to use. And just a reminder, you take those 2 little C's there, you wrap everything around, and you don't want it to be too tight as you start cutting. You want to cut all the way to about the end. You don't want to cut that last part, and you want to be able to put a piece of string in between those 2 C's to kind of tie it up, and then those 2 little C cardboard pieces should be able to pull out. So that way, boom, you just have your pom-pom, and you can kind of fluff it up a little bit, like as Mrs. McLellan said, and kind of trim it a bit. So that way, it's more of a symmetrical circle. But if you do make it, we'll be happy to see what you're doing during this winter break. Send us a picture on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we will highlight you. And don't forget, you can fill out that passport to win a prize. Passport for your winter camp is on pavirtual.com. Just click on the winter camp page and there's a download right there. You can fill it out either typing, or if you want to print it out and do it by hand, that's fine too. Basically, 1 or 2 sentences about what you learned with each one of these lessons. You email it back to us and you will get a PA Virtual prize pack, which is pretty awesome. So until tomorrow, we visit the Pittsburgh Ballet, and they are going to be showing us the story of the Nutcracker, the retelling of it, and the last couple of minutes, they're going to actually show you some of the basic moves that they do on stage, which should be a lot of fun. So if you're watching this live, tomorrow, the 23rd of December, you'll see that at 11 a.m. If you're kind of binge watching these, you get click on the video right below, and it should be right there in our playlist. So look forward to seeing you tomorrow, or whenever I do see you, seeing all these pictures of what you're doing with the craft activities. And I hope you continue to have an amazing winter break.